I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. I know that this is a hot topic that people have a lot on their minds. What I would like to do is first introduce everybody and myself. My name is Sean Fari. For those who don't know me, I'm the commissioner in Ward 7 in Garrett Hill, where this dispensary may or may not be happening. We do have members from Restore, the dispensary, and if they want to stand up and introduce themselves, please, and your position.
My name is Robert Stanley. I am a district manager for Restore. I'm Ted Flowers. I'm general counsel and compliance officer for Restore.
Actually, you know what? Sorry. Why don't you pass the microphone around?
My name's Chris Doyle. I'm a pharmacist. I currently work at the Doylestown location for Restore.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Becky Koval. I am one of the managers with Restore, and I partner up with Rob and oversee multiple locations.
Hello, I'm Derek Lefkowitz. I'm one of the managers down at Fishtown in Philadelphia.
Hello, Adi Abrahami, also in Fishtown, one of the managers in Philadelphia. My name is Pauline Soloff. I'm a manager in Elkins Park.
And we also have staff here as well. We have several commissioners, Commissioner Enderle, Commissioner Borowski, and Commissioner Maroney as well. Superintendent Chris Flanagan, he'll be able to answer any questions, as well as our acting manager, but I'll call him my interim manager, Bill White. So with that, I'm going to ask Restore to give hopefully about a 10-minute presentation. From there, I think a lot of people have been waiting for my comments, so I will speak to what I have found and my thoughts. Then I will then kick it over to the chief of police and the manager if they have anything to say, and then we'll take it for questions and answers. So with that, if you'd like to start.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Council of Radnor Township. I would just like to, again, introduce myself. My name is Rob Stanley. I'm the regional manager for Restore Dispensaries. I'd like to give you a brief presentation, go through some of the things, tell you a little bit more about Restore, what we do as a company, and then, as the commissioner said, we're going to turn it over to them for some remarks, and then open the floor to some questions and any input that you would like to offer. So we'd like to start about Restore. Restore is one of the major premier dispensaries in Pennsylvania. We provide state-eligible patients with responsible, compassionate care using marijuana-based medicine. We act not only as a marijuana dispensary, but as a place of healing to enhance the quality of life for our patients. Our dispensaries are state-of-the-art facilities designed so our patients can be comfortable while receiving the care and education that they need, which we feel is very important, not just as a dispensary, but to educate the patients. We have a lot of first-time patients that are new to medical marijuana, and we're a very patient-focused company, which we take great pride in. We have 3 locations in Pennsylvania: Doylestown, Elkins Park, and Fishtown, neighborhood of Philadelphia, which was the first medical marijuana dispensary to open up in Philadelphia in 2018. Our 4th location in Pottstown. Where's that? This? Cool. That works. Thanks. Thank you. Sorry about that. Our 4th location in Pottstown will be opening in the spring of 2020. In the planning stages of these dispensaries, we have met with local officials and neighbors to address any concerns that having a medical marijuana dispensary in their local area would bring about. We feel it is vital to work with the community in relation to our operations and also for the betterment of the neighborhood as a whole. Meet our team. Our team is pretty much constructed of a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life. We have a lot of folks that work for us who are patients themselves, so they have a really great understanding of what a lot of our patients go through and the knowledge of how to help those patients kind of navigate all the questions and areas of what would work best for them throughout the program and kind of help them make those decisions. The medical marijuana program protocol. In Pennsylvania, authorized patients only. Patients must be registered with the Pennsylvania Department of Health and may only enter the dispensary if they have a valid Pennsylvania medical ID card. You cannot come in to ask questions. You cannot come in as somebody, if you're with somebody who is a patient, you cannot just walk in with them. We do not do any certifications on site. We do have a pharmacist, which I'll get into a little bit later on, the pharmacist that is on staff at all times in the dispensaries to answer any of those questions. People are more than welcome to call the dispensaries ahead of time to ask any questions that they might have, and also for help to get a medical marijuana card as well. All patients must be registered as a Pennsylvania resident. The Department of Health regulations restrict patients with medical marijuana cards from other states to purchase from a dispensary in Pennsylvania. So as far as Pennsylvania, you cannot come if you're a medical marijuana patient in Massachusetts, New Jersey, Ohio. You cannot come to a dispensary in Pennsylvania and purchase product. You have to be a registered Pennsylvania resident. All patients must be approved by a doctor who is registered and approved by the Department of Health in Pennsylvania for any of the 23 qualifying conditions in order to obtain a medical marijuana card. The Pennsylvania Department of Health has instilled strict laws prohibiting consumption and the opening of product packaging in the dispensaries. We also enforce a no-tolerance policy for loitering. As we're going to get into this, a lot of the products that we have, people are not allowed to open up the package in the store, in the dispensary, open it up, look at it, and then decide if they want it or anything like that. It comes in tamper-proof packaging that they have to take home with them, open the product at home. As we're going to get into with the security, we do have constant monitoring of the patients and the area around the dispensary itself. So if we do see people outside, especially some of the locations where we have parking around the dispensary, people are not allowed to loiter. They go out, they're asked to move their car and asked to leave unless something happens. We've helped jump cars before and other stuff like that. Obviously, if there's some problems with that kind of stuff. In accordance with Department of Health policies, all employees of Restore are required to complete a 4-hour Department of Health training module, a state police background check, and federal background check. These requirements, in addition to the training program implemented by Restore, ensure that our employees obtain the knowledge to offer the highest level of patient care and professionalism. Restore is required by law to have a pharmacist who is registered and licensed with the Department of Health, scheduled during all hours of operations. The pharmacist helps ensure that not only registered patients are approved to receive medical marijuana, they provide consultations to patients and assist staff with patient care. At Restore, you are not required by the Department of Health to have a consultation for your first visit at a dispensary. We strongly encourage it to folks that are coming in, especially if it's their first time using medical marijuana, that they sit down with our pharmacist. They can come up with how they want to consume the marijuana, how they want to consume their medicine, and the effects that they're looking for from it, whether it be for pain management, all different kinds of things, PTSD, and it goes down the stuff, and kind of help navigate them again with the plan of care. This brings us to security. The safety and integrity of our patients, neighbors, and employees is of the highest importance to us. We have 24-hour surveillance, security guard presence, and patrolling. Man-trapped security doors, which is when you go in one door, you can't get through to the other door. So if somebody comes into the front door of our dispensary, which you can see right here, come into the front door, they can't get through the second door until they're buzzed in by the security guard in the vestibule there. And in that vestibule is where they have to show their medical marijuana card, and then also we ask that patients show a Pennsylvania resident card as well. Just that's extra backup for us. We also employ panic buttons, silent alarms, audible alarms, and Department of Health regulations for limited access to card holders only. We have excellent communication and relationships with local law enforcement. Superintendent Flanagan has visited our Elkins Park location and was given a tour of the facility and our security procedures. Also, Superintendent Flanagan requested our records from the Department of Health and discovered that Restore has not received any infractions from the inspectors within the department. Only registered patients, caregivers, and employees of the dispensary are granted access to the facility. No guests are allowed unless approved by the Department of Health. That even goes for police. Unless there is an emergency, Police officers cannot just come into the dispensary and just walk in. We have to have that all approved by the Department of Health. And that goes with any of the visitors that try to come in. We have to get it approved by the Department of Health, and they can enter the facility. Medical marijuana products. All medical marijuana products are tracked from seed to sale to the Department of Health regulated system, MJ Freeway. The medical marijuana program in Pennsylvania also requires that all medicine be consumed either by ingestion, application, or vaporization. The Department of Health prohibits the production and sale of edibles, what you would see as pre-rolled joints, blunts, kinds of different things like that. Mainly comes in forms of oil cartridges, loose flour, topicals, tinctures, and stuff along those lines. All products are sold with packaging that lists the test results, grower process information, dispensary information, and are also non-transparent and tamper-proof. This brings us to everyday discount programs. We realize that the cost of medical marijuana can be expensive and therefore unobtainable for certain patients. With that being said, we're extremely proud to offer the most comprehensive discount and reward program in the state of Pennsylvania. All U.S. military veterans receive a 20% discount for every purchase. For our patients over 60 years of age, they receive a 15% discount for every purchase. We offer a 15% discount to patients who are qualified to receive SNAP, SSI, SSDI benefits. In addition to special promotions, we offer an extra 5% off all purchases between Monday through Wednesday between 2:30 and 4:30 p.m. for all patients. Finally, for every $100 spent, patients can accrue points to use for future purchases. I just want to kind of go over the demographics of it. As you can see on the chart, the majority of our patients are a little bit more mature than what you might think, 30 to 40 years old being the highest demographic at 30%. Then it takes us down to 40 to 50 years old at 22%, then going to 60 years old and over at 18%, and then under 30, and then 50 to 60 at the same at 15%. We see a lot of folks that are cancer patients, neuropathy, all kinds of different things that people are able to do it, and they're first-time patients. So we do have an older demographic of patients that use medical marijuana and are in the program. Since the beginning of our journey in Pennsylvania, we've strived to support communities we operate in by organizing patient education, partnering with local charities, and volunteering our time. We have volunteered with the Epilepsy Foundation of Eastern Pennsylvania, the Eagles Autism Challenge, 31 Foundation Coat Drive, Preston Steve Camp Out for Hunger, Light the Night to benefit cancer patients, among many other events and organizations. We've helped educate at Wincote Academy, Cheltenham Adult School, Penn's Village, Elementa Women's Group, Temple University School of Pharmacy, PCOM, and the American Pain Association, among many others as well. Community outreach and education is fundamental to our mission. We realize that there is an enormous need for us to utilize our knowledge and the benefits of medical marijuana to share with our patients and the public. Oh, it's popping up all kinds of stuff. From everything that we've done, because of the continued interaction and outreach within the community, Restore has been featured in these various media outlets. We've done a lot of different events with Philadelphia Magazine to help spread the word and educate people as well. I just want to go this, and I believe, just want to kind of go through, this is the pictures of our Restore in Doylestown. We just opened Doylestown location in October of last year on Northeastern Road. Yeah, this one. So right down here. Our Elkins Park location opened in October of 2018 on Old York Road, right past Abington. And then, as I said, our Fishtown location on Frankfort Avenue in Philadelphia opened in May of 2020, which was, again, the first dispensary in Philadelphia. I want to thank you very much for this opportunity this evening to talk to you. I'm sorry I'm a little crazy that I'm not best at the slideshow. Look forward to answering any questions after the commissioners speak. And again, thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much for that. We'll get the questions and answers. Okay. Well, it wasn't my drop. So we'll get to the questions and answers after I just have a couple comments and thoughts and observations, and then I'll kick that over if the Superintendent Flanagan or the manager wants to speak. We can do that as well. So just so everyone knows, I met with Restore about maybe a month and a half ago upstairs with township officials, the solicitor, the police as well, and they kind of gave me the whole, this pretty much what you heard tonight. So I just kind of want to let you know that I did meet with them, and that was pretty much the only interaction I have had with Restore, except arranging this and finding a time. I'll tell you this on a personal level, I have no problem with medical marijuana as long as it's for the intent of medical reasons, and I will want to touch on that at the end. There's been a lot of information that's been on some of the closed Facebook pages and social media pages, and I do want to clarify a couple things. This plan is 100% by right. There's no changes to the building that would require any type of zoning. Emlyn Tunnel is a park that is owned by the school board, but it is not a school. There are classes at the church, the Radnor United Methodist Church, but they are not considered a school because that entity does not have an educational license. My own personal opinion, I think ideally Bryn Mawr Hospital would make better sense, but that's not, that's not where the opportunity is. Now, back in 2018, I think June, July of 2018, another medical marijuana company called Alara, they wanted to rezone in Radnor on, I guess the closest area would be Garrett Avenue at Lancaster. And there was two issues with that and why that fell through. Number one, it was 1,000 feet within a school. And when I say 1,000 feet, it was 999.8 feet from a school. But they also would have to have the part of that building rezoned to 450 square feet from office space to retail. And people that know me, I don't want any more retail, any more retail or cars in the neighborhood. Now, that being said, where this place is now, where the formerly Garrett Hill Pizza, that was a business, so a business does eventually have to go there. When we look at what Garrett Hill is, it is a small, or at least I think it is a small little business district. But we do have to realize there are 30,000 square feet of office space. We have 2 bars, a beer distributor. Garrett Hill Pizza, prior to going out of business, was a restaurant that sold 6-packs, 40-ounce beers, and cigarettes. So it is a legitimate business district. So if I want to touch on safety here, again, I worry about increased traffic and people driving under the influence. We have a college town, but what I was told is that you have to be a Pennsylvania resident to obtain a license, which makes me feel a little bit better because we are close to many universities where that location is. The other issue is safety because it is a cash business. Marijuana is not legal federally, so you have to pay cash because the banks, which operate across state lines, cannot take a transaction from a credit card. As I said before, something does have to go there. It can't stay vacant. I'd love to turn Garrett Hill Pizza into a park, but it's not going to happen. That being said, they would make an investment into that property, and that property is dated. And, those yellow pylons that are around there, it's unattractive. The other issue about safety that I have is, I'll tell you this, I've never seen people doing drugs in the park. I've seen sometimes parents drinking in the park with their kids, not with their kids, but when they go to the playground on a Friday. But I've never seen it bad to the point where it's like people are just like going to the park to drink. It's not what Garrett Hill is. It would never happen. So when you look at Clem McCrone Park, I don't think that you're you're asking people to come buy medicinal marijuana to go drive to Clemacrone to wipe it on or vape. I don't think that's going to be the case, and I think that a lot of people are worried about that. But that would be the case already. If anyone wants to smoke pot, I'm sure you can probably buy a dime bag and go wherever you want and smoke it. And that's not what they do. You can't stop somebody from breaking the law in that regard. And again, I think this medical marijuana, it's no different than any controlled substance, and it is a controlled substance, so it's no different than something like Ambien or Vicodin, something that's regulated. So those are kind of my thoughts and my opinion. I do have two questions for, I guess it would actually be the owner, and this is kind of where a lot of people are here because they don't want it in the neighborhood, and I get that. So I guess my question, is Mr. Patel here? Okay. So I guess this would be for you. This is really a two-part question. Would you seek a recreational license for this location if recreational marijuana became legal?
I can't actually answer at this time because we don't know what exactly. So we've tried to talk to the Department of Health to find out if that's even going to be something in the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Okay.
So I can't answer it with all honesty right now.
Okay.
It's something we'd look at, but we'd obviously come back and talk to you guys before we did all that.
Now, with that being said, I've spoken to our solicitor, and I've kind of polled other members of the board, and this is something that I'm going to do, and I believe that there's an appetite for creating an ordinance for limiting recreational marijuana in our commercial districts that abut these residential neighborhoods. So I don't know if that would have an impact on whether or not you decide to open.
I couldn't tell you right now. I'd have to talk to my partners, and then we can let
Okay.
you know at that point.
Okay. So with that being said, like I said, I have no problem with medicinal marijuana. I don't want to come between anyone and their doctor. But if this becomes an issue of where this is a footprint to try to, get your footprint in, if this becomes legal recreationally, I'll just tell you, at least in my opinion, and probably a lot of the people here, that's not going to fly. And at the next meeting, I'm going to go ahead and do my best to make sure that we can keep it for medicinal, but recreational is not going to happen, at least as long as I'm commissioner.
We appreciate it.
So that's really what I have to say. We have the manager here. And we have the superintendent down there. So if Bill or Chris or Bill Miller, who is our codes, and then we have two other commissioners here. If anyone from staff wants to jump in, feel free to, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers. Thanks.
I'll go first, and then I'll kick it over to Chris. My comments will be very brief. I live within walking distance of this site, so I see a lot of my neighbors and folks that walk past my house when I'm out playing with my kids. So I just want to say thank you for coming out tonight and taking the time out of your lives to come and hear the information firsthand instead of relying maybe on bad information or things that are put out there by folks who didn't take the time to come up here tonight. So I just wanted to say thank you for taking your time and being here. Logistically, we are recording this, and this will be up on the Township site for folks that maybe weren't able to make it. So when we get to the question and answer part, we have a couple options. We can either have folks come up to the podium and ask questions, or I will walk around and pass the mic, depending on your germ tolerance right now, which I'm sure is pretty low, and I'm sure we don't want to be passing too many around, but whatever way is most comfortable for you, just let me know if and when you got a question, and we'll sort that out, just to make sure all the questions are heard on the live and on the replay. So,
Thank you.
take it away, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. White. There is a normal process, which Mr. Miller will go over, that there's certain protections and things that we have where people can be held at other hearings and as things go on, and he'll explain that process. The police department does not normally get involved, but the Commissioner Farhi was extremely concerned about the community's reaction to having marijuana distribution center, even just for medical purposes. So with that, Corporal Sherman, who is standing to my right, we were assigned to take a review and supply that to the commissioners and Manager White, just to go over some preliminary findings on what we found. Just real quickly, we filed a right-to-know request with the Department of Health, which came back with negative reports of any violations or problems with the Restore facility. On March 6, 2020, Mr. Patel opened up the facility. We were able to take a tour at 8003 Old York Road in Elkins Park. There's pictures and other things. I will pass this one book around. There's an identical book that the commissioners are currently reviewing now. In that, it also includes the right-to-know request, which confirms the information that I'm providing. When we went over there, we reviewed several things from cleanliness to security to video systems. I would like to thank the team. They were extremely open, inviting, and did not hesitate to show us 1 inch of the building. Most importantly, we found no security violations. Probably more what I'm talking about is outside in the parking lot. We didn't find anybody hanging out. We didn't find any loitering. We didn't find any of those type of things. We found what I would consider a ship-shape, very tightly run operation. The other thing I did is we did walk. There was one direct neighbor who had a gas station right next door to the facility. We went up there and independently walked without the Restore team with us, knocked on the door and asked them if they had any complaints, loiterers, problems, drug paraphernalia, anything that I think we could assume possibly in our thought process that would go on, and they reported no. An inspection of the parking lot, which was a concern of mine for trash or drug paraphernalia, was a 100% negative result. The pictures and everything review that. We also decided to take an approach, and I'll let Corporal Sherman talk about that. I appreciate his research, where we researched independent other facilities, dispensing facilities that were not Restore, to see if they had problems in different types of community, and I'll let him describe what was done.
Thank you, Superintendent. Like the superintendent said, what I simply did was just do a Google search for medical marijuana dispensaries. And it's amazing. I don't know if anyone has done it. Just do a search, and boom, you're going to find there is a lot of dispensaries, particularly close to this area. Now, what I did was I kind of stayed within, outside of the city limits. I stayed within a tri-county area, Montgomery, Chester, and Delaware County. Located those places, contacted the local police departments, just to get an idea of, since the inception of those businesses, you know, have they had any complaints? What are the neighbor complaints? What are the issues that they're having? Just to run through a couple here, Baltimore Pike in Springfield, Morton area has one. I talked to the chief there. Absolutely 0 calls in and around that facility. Right down the street here, Lancaster Avenue in Devon, again, 0 calls. There's 2 places in King of Prussia, Warner Road, which is over by the Walmart, and there's one, it's in an industrial area off of Henderson Road, very similar. No complaints whatsoever, no police calls. And the third, or the final one I went to was in Westchester. It's on Westchester Pike, similar. Now, all these places are in commercial areas, industrial areas, but no police calls. So that's positive news for the residents and for our community that these other departments are not having the issues that we think we might have. Superintendent?
So we could probably tie up the meeting going through a lot of different parts of that. Mr. White, I don't know if you want this book passed around while we're here, or they can come up and look at it later. It's your pleasure, but I'll turn that over to you.
We'll make it available, and then folks can take
that was pretty much it. I think I don't want to tie up the meeting because we want to respect time. If there's questions, we'll jump in when required.
If anybody wants to go through the report that we have, we'll be over here just after the meeting. Just stop over and we'll take a look.
All right, I think with that, we're going to transition to the question and answer portion. just a shameless plug. The work that the police department did on this was initiated by the police department in anticipation of the heightened interest given what we're talking about tonight. And the work they did is fantastic. So we appreciate the initiative and the proactive approach they took to this. And hopefully everyone finds the information that they gathered as useful as I did. So I would encourage folks to take a look at the book and the actual research that they came up with. So with that, let's, who's got the first question?
And if you guys could state your name, that would be
Sarah
helpful.
Pilling, 29 Garrett Avenue. I took the initiative of calling Dalen Leach's office. He's our state senator who introduced the medical marijuana dispenser, making medicinal marijuana legal in Pennsylvania. And I said, Dalen, what if it's going to come into a neighborhood? And this was his answer, and it's a direct quote. There is a medical marijuana dispensary in any neighborhood makes it the safest neighborhood you could live in because it is so restrictive to go there. The people who are going there are for the medical conditions. You can see the qualifying decisions. The security is incredible, and you can obviously see the police monitor it very carefully. So I am definitely pro. I'm a person who could have gone on medical marijuana. I have spinal stenosis. I qualify. I could not afford it because there's no medical insurance that covers it. And I am blessed that I took CBD oil, which is, they're both made from the same product, but one has a higher THC. And after a year, I don't have to take it anymore because my pain is gone. So I know people are worried, but really, and the other piece no one has spoken of is as a first-class township, we have the right to charge a gross sales, what is it, Bill? Yes, gross proceeds tax. So this is an economic benefit to Radnor Township, and we need it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
While I walk the mic over to the next, we'll be back. The next question, have you guys run any estimates on what? Oh, please, yeah.
I don't mind the germs.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wasn't sure who I was talking to. I just hate to have my back to everyone. Hi, Mark Schwartz. And I was late, so forgive me. I have a couple of questions, and I will be quick, I promise. The cards, the medical marijuana cards.
Sure.
Is that something that is a state card? Is that something that's prescribed by a doctor?
It's a state card. It's run, the whole program is run by the Department of Health in Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania Department of Health.
Okay.
So you have to obviously qualify for one of the 23 conditions to qualify for a card.
Okay.
Then you would have to go see a doctor who is registered with the Department of Health to prescribe a medical marijuana card for you. Then that gets processed through the Department of Health.
Okay.
Again, you have to be a Pennsylvania resident.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
You have to be a Pennsylvania resident to receive a medical marijuana card. You can't go from New Jersey to come over and get a Pennsylvania card. You have to have a valid Pennsylvania
Which
residence.
was my next question, which it
And
has.
The Department of Health actually has to, they have final say as to whether or not they award a card or not. So it's not only if you get a doctor, maybe sympathetic, and may make the recommendation, the Department of Health still has to review
Right.
the submission.
Great.
And this is an ongoing review.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not a one and done word. Gotcha. Secondly, if I may, I'm sorry. Okay. And all cards have a photo ID like the two cards
Yep.
I just saw.
And again, we
Actually,
ask for a second form of ID. That isn't something across the state. Normally, you just need your medical marijuana card to get into a dispensary. We ask that you bring your Pennsylvania ID, whether it be your driver's license or your state ID, as a backup form so we know that people aren't using other people's IDs and that it is a valid card.
Hold on, Rob, Mark, I don't mean to interrupt. So and the pharmacist, when you ask a question, if you can actually go to the microphone because there are people at home and the acoustics, one of the reasons why I wanted it in here was for the acoustics. So if you are going to answer a question, please answer it in front of a microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. My next question is security.
Yes.
Are the guards armed?
We at Restore do not have armed guards.
You do not have armed guards.
We do not have armed guards. That was a decision that we made even in the Fishtown section of Philadelphia, where some people might have a preconceived notion of being a little bit more of a dangerous area. We've taken all the necessary steps to ensure that, obviously with the surveillance of the building itself, the man trap doors that we have, the training of the security guards themselves, and to be honest, for us personally, it might bring that sense that something's about to go down with somebody. We have a lot of older patients that come in. We don't want that kind of environment, and we do not have armed guards.
Nor do I want that in
Yeah.
my neighborhood.
No, we don't.
Thank you.
We don't have that.
When you, sorry, this just came up when I think it was mentioned not by the officers, but here, why would you not allow the police to come in without having an invitation? I've never heard of that in any business, and please correct me if there's others, but why wouldn't our local police, who are here to protect and serve, not be able to walk in unannounced?
That is a Department of Health regulation. That's a state regulation. We invited the police department.
That is discern. I don't know if anyone else has a problem with that. I do. Thank you, because
we agree, and it's something. If we have something that goes on, we work a lot with all the police departments in our neighborhoods. We've helped with many crimes in Philadelphia, around down the street from the dispensary, late night when the dispensary isn't even open, to help with auto accidents out front, to help with that kind of stuff. We have a very good relationship with the police department where they come. We can reach out to the Department of Health and tell them that police, and they're pretty good at responding and being able to have officers come in, but they're not. But nobody can come in just because to check out. Obviously, if there is an emergency, you can come in. The police department would be allowed in.
The optics to me, and I appreciate the health department, does sound a little bit above the law. They're here to protect and serve every business in Garrett Hill.
I agree.
And every other business I've ever been a part of. It just seems a little bit odd. Forgive the adjective.
That's the law. I mean, that was the law
Right.
that Governor Wolf signed, and that's the way the DOH.
But that's the Department of Health.
We're talking about state laws, correct?
Yes.
That's a state law. Okay, that's a state law. Okay.
It's a state law. It's not a Radnor Township law, is
I
what I'm
appreciate
hearing.
that. I'm saying to hear that a police officer is not allowed into an establishment for the first time is just a little bit strange to me.
I understand, but we're not here to talk about state laws.
No, we're not. I guess we're not. Radnor Police, how do you feel about that, not being able to get access there without a preset appointment through the Department of Health?
I'll just say that we follow the regulations. If we're not permitted in by the Department of Health, then that's something that we could write a letter, ask for a better explanation on. But if we're not permitted in, we're not permitted in. I do want to remind you that they invited us in. I don't know if you were here for that part of the presentation. So we did receive permission to enter, and we could probably set up some type of random schedule with the Department of Health if that was a concern of the community or the commissioners.
What would your hours be? I'm not holding you to your hours today. It hasn't happened. But if you were to give me an idea of some of your other local Restore facilities, what would the retail type of hours be?
The hours at Restore right now from Monday to Wednesday is 9 to 7. Then Thursday through Saturday is 9 to 8 p.m. And then Sunday from 9 to 5.
There has been some concern with my neighbors about the impact of traffic in Garrett Hill. As you guys know that spot, there's very little parking in front. I don't know if there's a plan to improve that. It's probably hard because the footprint's the footprint.
Okay.
So that is a concern about during retail hours, which is not when the restaurants and the bars are really busy, but we have kids at bus stops. I'm sure you guys are aware there's a bus stop just up the street. The concern of cars in the afternoon coming and going at a very busy intersection. Is there any thought as to where clients could park outside of, in front of the store?
We will be having the parking in front. And then at the property next door, we have that property as well, and we will be utilizing the parking spaces there. And we're setting up something with the office complex across the street to maybe do some sort of valet parking for people, to where we won't have the congestion and people stopping, waiting to go out front. That's something that we've thought about very carefully.
And lastly, and just forgive me, I can only think of a restaurant and bar, which this isn't. Is someone allowed on the premise inside of your facility to consume what they've purchased, or do they have to, by law, take it away?
They, by law, have to take it away. They can't even open the package in the dispensary itself. So you can't purchase something, whether it be loose leaf or anything like that, loose leaf flower, which is the technical term. Okay. You can't open it up in the dispensary, look at it, smell it, anything like that. It is tamper-proof sealed, and you cannot open it in the dispensary.
And correct me, it wouldn't be allowed to be opened anywhere or consumed on your property?
No, we're extremely strict with people. As soon as they're done with the dispensary, they have to leave. If people are waiting for something like an Uber, we let them wait inside the dispensary,
Right.
and then they can we don't have people hanging out outside.
They're not, okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I don't like microphones. If you can't hear me, let me know. Sarah Billing. Oh, for the recording. Okay.
Yeah, you need a phone.
Sarah, I miss my time in the community garden with you. My name is Caroline Hawkins. I'm a Radnor resident. Most of you cut down through Aldwin Lane speeding most of the time. You see it as a joke. I'm a mother, a single mother with 2 teenage girls. I'm also in the medical marijuana community. I'm a wholesaler to Restore. And I'm here, I came tonight because I want to give you guys a perspective. It's my perspective. I got into this industry because I have a family member who has Parkinson's disease. She's 85. She can barely hold a spoon to her mouth without medication. I brought a patient card if you guys want to see what it looks like. I support Restore. I've worked with Robert for almost 3 years. He's not kidding when he tells you this is a highly, highly regulated industry. Garrett Hill is my neighborhood. I walk it every day. I miss Garrett Hill Pizza. I'm happy to have a business that's coming into our community that is secure. You are not going to find kids going to this dispensary to get their weed, to go to the park and smoke it. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's highly regulated. Radnor police, I promise you, will be their best friends. This industry, per the state of Pennsylvania and the Department of Health, is all about community. And I wanted to get up and say something because Garrett Hill is my community. It's your community. These dispensaries, by law, have to give back to the communities. And Restore takes a lot of initiative to work with the people in the community to see what's needed. So Garrett Hill, Radnor, what's needed? I mean, I think pine trees should be planted off the 476 corridor coming into lovely Radnor Township. That's a story for another time. Maybe trees or trash have to be picked up in Garrett Hill. What can make Garrett Hill better? That's what Restore is here to do. I'm in the industry. I've lived it. The Department of Health has gone up one side of me and down the other to be in this highly regulated industry. So for those of you who have questions, I will give you my phone number. I live in Radnor. I'm a mom with 2 teenagers, 2 teenage girls. Do you think that I want any form of marijuana around them? No, of course I don't. They're teenage girls, right? But this is highly regulated. There are people out there who are sick. This list of qualifying conditions, well, it's now up to 27 qualifying conditions for the state. I can't say enough good things about this industry because I've seen how marijuana, which is a medicine, has helped people be better. The average patient going into the Garrett Hill dispensary, I guarantee you, is 50 years old or older. That's the average patient in the state of Pennsylvania. If your worry is about kids, Villanova students, parking, it's not going to be the case because to their point, there are so many medical marijuana dispensaries up and running right now in our neighborhoods that I don't foresee parking as an issue. I don't foresee disturbance of the neighborhood as an issue. If anything, Radnor police are going to be honed in on this dispensary because it's in our neighborhood. And it's the way it is with all other dispensaries around the state. So that's what I have to say. I'm a Radnor resident. I get the fact that there may be people who are scared or don't want it, but you can go to the Giant and buy alcohol and your kids, your college students, go to the Giant and buy alcohol with, fake ID cards. This is not fake. When I go into a dispensary to make a purchase, I'm tied into a computer database. They know my every move. And if you're a patient, they know your move. They know what you're doing. It's highly, highly regulated. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is John King. I live in Garrett Hill. And my question for the owner, excuse me, sir, why did you choose Garrett Hill? Was it your first choice in Radnor Township? And if not, what other locations did a neighborhood in Radnor reject? And how did you make it to Garrett Hill?
Mr. Patel, if you could come up and speak in the microphone.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry about that. This is Stephanie. She does a lot of real estate for us. She can explain better why we ended up with that. We would have been happy to go to another location, but we couldn't find nothing that would fit the parameters for the state, for the town. So that was the issue. And then that building, the landlord, when we talked to him, he was having a tough time with that building because it's so old. So we were just trying to help everybody out. So, but we would have been more than happy to go somewhere that was better for everybody. We just couldn't find nothing. But
So does that mean other locations, like Wayne, for instance? I know for a fact you looked in Wayne, maybe under a different name. I'm not sure if it was Restore at the time, but a location was rejected.
It's not us.
I've been working with the Restore team in a real estate capacity for over a year at this point, and this is the first deal that we've been able to come up with that was a compliant location as far as state regulations, far enough away from schools and daycares, had the ability to be secured the way it needs to be for state regulations, and would serve a pocket in where there's a gap in coverage. So what we did is we put on a map all the other dispensaries in the area, put radius around them of 5 miles, and there's a gap right there in Garrett Hill. So anybody who lives in that location or in the 5-mile radius around it doesn't have as close access to retail medical marijuana dispensaries. Whereas in King of Prussia right now, there are at least 3, and we hear that there are more coming.
King of Prussia is a lot different than Garrett Hill. DeKalb Pipe, Henderson Road, those are much different than...
We're talking about a medical product that serves all patients in the state to get the coverage that you need around the state and fill in the gaps rather than put them all in a row on DeKalb Pike.
Have you guys ever operated under another name, or do you own other entities that are medical marijuana?
No, and I'll address it. Restore was established in 2016. It has 2 permits in Pennsylvania. It's operated under the name Restore Integrative Wellness Center since 2016. Has never used another name. It has those permits. It's not. There are a lot of other companies out there that flip names. We're well aware of them. This is not one of those companies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just real quick, can you talk about what some of those state regulations are that you have to comply with on the retail side?
Sure. So the 2 primary regulations are that you have to be 1,000 feet, a 1,000-foot setback from schools and daycare centers. There are other restrictions in terms of how the facilities, how the security around the facility operates. Deliveries, you can't look into the facility. It has to be blocked out from public view. You can't see what goes on in the facility. From the security element, there has to be a secure and enclosed area for delivery out of the sight of the public, so there won't be front door deliveries. It'll all be in a discrete area. Restore's other facilities have not had no issues in terms of that security element. But those are there are a litany of other regulations in terms of, we've covered the access to the facility in terms of who can get in. But those are the basic, again, it's the setbacks from schools and daycares which the state has set at 1,000 feet, which are the primary limitations that would have affected in terms of a geographic location and selecting a place to operate.
Hi, thank you. Shruti Angstrom, 143 Browning Lane. So following up on the regulations that you mentioned, why does Restore need to be on a storefront on Conestoga Road when right across the street there's like a medical office building? I mean, why can't that type of space be leased for this type of a medical facility?
Unless you are affiliated with a hospital or something like that, like they were talking about the secure transport of the products. We have to have it's secure deliveries that come. They pull into our discrete thing that goes into a vault. There's all different kinds of regulations. It has to.
That doesn't make sense because there's restaurants right next to you. So I don't think that it's discreet there, any more discreet there than it would be across the street in an office building. And my point simply is all of your locations that you currently have and the locations that the township looked at are on significantly larger thoroughfares, bigger roads. They're not on a smaller thoroughfare like Conestoga Road with residents abutting like right behind it. And so the question is, if this particular location worked from a regulatory standpoint, there's really no reason why it has to be a storefront. I mean, why can't it be in an office building?
Well, just that under the regulations, you also can't have shared space. You have to have a single entrance to your facility, which is completely controlled and separated and segregated from any other facility. So that's why you're not going to find them in a hospital, or you're not going to find them in an office building.
That's legit. Okay.
Hold on,
Why can't we be on Lancaster Avenue somewhere?
Again, because of the setbacks, one, the availability of property. I'm not involved in the real estate search, but the availability of property controls a lot of what is done. But additionally, we have the setback requirements in terms of close proximity to schools and daycares, which really controls. If you go down Lancaster Avenue, my nephew goes to St. Catherine's of Siena.
Right, so we don't want it in Wayne, so we're going to put it in
there's
Garrett
no place
Hill.
to put it. There's no place to put it in Wayne. So there's no.
I understand what you're saying.
Property
I understand what you're saying.
That would be compliant with state law.
Okay. My next question is this a done deal? I mean, that's the one thing that hasn't been discussed here. Who owns this property? Is it? Well, so is this? Can you tell us? Is this a done deal?
No, that's not true. I brought this up at. No, hold on. I brought this up at, and I don't want to interrupt. And this is not what I want. So, no. Hold on. Finish your question, and then you can ask your question. But I don't want it where everyone's talking over each other.
It's just unclear. I don't understand who owns the property. Is the company the property owner, or is there another property owner? And is it being leased? Is this happening and we're just being told about it? Where are we in the process?
So we're in the early stages of the process. We're actually at the point now where we have to get approval from the Department of Health, who has to approve the location.
Okay. So you've leased the space already, or you own the space?
We've entered into, there's a lease that's been approved by the property owner and Restore. There's an option to purchase the property within a short period of time. The investment into the property will be will exceed $1 million. So there is an interest in obtaining the property. But all this, again, has to be approved by the Department of Health, who will look at, and it's a significant application.
Is that the application process where there's a community impact and all of that stuff that's on there?
Exactly. It's a little bit different than the license obtaining application, which is how the Department of Health awards it. But in terms of adding a location, the Department of Health does a full review of anything from your security plan, a very thorough security plan, to your diversity plan, to your community impact plan, to actually looking at the floor plans of the facility, your security plan that has to be submitted, fully embedded, and in terms of your protocols, your operational protocols, and looking at the facility to make sure it complies with state law in terms of the enclosed secure delivery location, the setbacks for the property.
Okay, I've seen the application, so I understand. I understand what the requirements or what the criteria is for community impact, and I don't think I don't think that your community impact is going to be positive in the way that the application or the criteria sets forth. I mean, I don't think you're coming to a community where you're going to have that impact, and I've seen what your scores are. So I don't think that, from what I'm seeing, that you guys are having the positive impact on the community that you're alleging you're going to have. So that's an aside. So what is the timeline? And I don't have a problem with people using medical marijuana. I mean, I get that. And, you know, that's what I'm saying. If it could be in an office building where it's not on a street front, that would be my preference. Obviously, I don't control state regulations. What's the timeline on your application and the process?
Well, the plan would be to submit the application within the next 30 to 60 days, and then there's usually a 60 to 90-day turnaround from the Department of Health as to whether or not it's an approved application.
Is there a public comment period? Besides, this isn't it. So, I mean, is there a public comment period in front of the Department of Health?
Department of Health.
There's not?
No.
Hey, hold on, let me just, hold on, let me just answer your question. So the reason why it cannot go, or why it's got to go into retail, is the same reason why that Alara did not happen on the corner of Lancaster and Garrett Avenue. That was office space, and they had to rezone 450 square feet to retail, and they were not, I mean, that was going to have to go to zoning hearing, and they were probably not going to, it's probably not going to happen. And again, I'll just touch on this real quick. And I don't want to see things rezoned. Again, my fear, like I said, I have no problem with medicinal. My fear is for recreational.
That's a big issue.
Yeah, and no, let me just say this. So 450 square feet initially is probably plenty for medical. But if you do open it up to recreational and you're selling other things as well, you may need more space. And once you open up the floodgate for something being all retail, now you have pretty much a retail. And if they move out, you could put a, I don't know, a Subway sandwich or a Wawa or whatever, you know, any other kind of restaurant there. And I just want to keep all retail out. So I hope that does answer your question.
Does the township have any say in the approval process?
So this is a by right plan in the sense of they're not changing the building. They're not asking for a waiver. They're not saying we want to raise the height. They're going to keep the building. They're going to make improvements to the outside as well as the inside, but they're not fundamentally changing anything where they need to get a variance or go to zoning. So that's why it is considered by right.
There's no need for some type of traffic impact study
or
anything like that? I mean, that's going to be an issue.
So this is what I spoke about in my notes. There was something there before, okay? There was a pizza shop there before. So it's not that you can't have something, you take it away and everyone gets used to it and says, oh, well, now I don't want anything going there. If another pizza shop opened up, and I understand that you have questions with this business, but if another, if another retail location opened up, that won't be the issue.
Right, but they're not selling a Schedule I drug.
I understand, but that's not, you're talking about, it's a retail location. It's not an issue about a Schedule I drug. I understand what you're saying, but it's not relevant. Hold on. Let's let our...
The young lady from Browning Lane had a question. By the way, I'm Bill Miller. I'm filling in for Kevin Kuchansky, the zoning officer. So I'm doing the zoning for him. I was employed here at Radnor Township from 1999 until September of 2016 and filled in for the zoning officer several times. She had a question about the business campus across the street. I stepped out, took a look at the zoning. It's GHBC. In that particular building and in that zoning district, a retail use is not permitted, so they could not go into those buildings.
Hi, my name is Rosie Yaramboykov. I live 50 meters from this space. I don't have anything against medical marijuana at all. I understand it's helpful, but I totally oppose this store being open in this location. Okay. I'm very concerned about recreational marijuana, and I am very concerned about the young people living in the area. I live in Garrett Hill for more than 10 years now. I work with census. I know exactly population of the hill, and there are so many young people. There are people with small kids, there are teenagers, there are students. It's not your target market. So having this store open right next to the bus stop where the kids came, next to the big park, which doesn't have any electricity, for me, it doesn't make any sense, especially now when anytime we can have a open recreational marijuana.
Well,
so I'm really opposing this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the comments. And just kind of to go back to that, we don't know if Pennsylvania is going to go recreational. And as the commissioner was saying, they're going to make their decisions in this community, either to make an ordinance that we cannot go recreational and have to stay medical, which we would appreciate and definitely abide by. You cannot come as a teenager, come into the dispensary just to buy marijuana. As we were saying, it's very regulated. You have to have a prescription to get in. People talk about getting it off of the street. The price of medical marijuana, and that's prices that are set by grower processors, is much higher than something off of the street. So something, if you were to come in to buy something in the dispensary and think that you could go in and sell it on the street, you wouldn't make any money off of it. It's not that kind of business. That's not what we do. This is not, we don't look at it as this kind of business. We look at it as a very patient-focused clinic almost. And I appreciate your things with that. We're excited with even the cameras that we have outside. You're talking about a bus stop. We want to have all the stuff out there that is the cameras out front that we can provide security in case something happens, like we were saying, where there are car accidents or something with kids running around. We take that very seriously, and we want to be part of the community and utilize all the tools that we have to help out.
Did she have any? Hi, my turn.
Sure.
You want me to go up there? Hi, good evening. My name is Jonathan Gustorf. Just as a little bit of a background, I'm a physician, and I have been lecturing on medical marijuana for the past 3 years or so. I was sanctioned by the Department of Health to educate police departments, municipalities, hospitals. I've spoken to physician groups. I went down to Georgia and spoke to the Association of Drug and Food Executives. I'm scheduled to go out to Los Angeles next month to speak to the American College of Physicians on marijuana. I'm hearing a lot of the same themes that I heard at the dozen or so municipal meetings that I attended when I opened up my 3 dispensaries in central Pennsylvania. The fears are the same, the concerns are the same across the state, across the country. Are our children going to be safe? Right? First and foremost. Are our neighborhoods going to be flooded with marijuana? We're going to be seeing people sitting on the street corners or in the park smoking a doobie. Right? Am I similar concerns across the state? Maybe I'm not quite hitting on the head. Tell what? Because that's what I'm recreational. Go ahead.
Please, let's if we can.
I'm curious about.
Yeah, I know, but
You're concerned about whether it
you
becomes
need to give him the
recreational.
microphone.
Recreational was her concern.
So if you can speak, if you want to, if you want to give them the mic, and then you can speak in front of the other
I can repeat
one.
the question. So the question was, the concern is really more about recreational, not the medicinal. All right, let me.
So I'm Allie King. I live in Ward 7. My concern is not with marijuana use at all, recreational or medical. It's what happens when, we do have to think ahead. We can't just say, oh, yeah, this is great. And I hear what you're saying. There's plenty of, police presence and cameras to keep us safe. But I have done my research, and what happens after marijuana is legalized, the crime rates go up the roof. You can Google it if you don't believe me. And our housing costs, pricing go way down. So I think it's really important for us to think about those factors here. And like I said, in my opinion, this issue has nothing to do with marijuana use, medicinally or recreationally. And also, I do appreciate the many medical wonders of marijuana, but do you have a dispensary near your house?
No, but I live down the street, and I'm really excited that it'll be coming to town.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't. That's great, but when,
By the way, I'm not looking to be I'm just telling you from a previous, so a community benefits plan, a community impact plan isn't so much from somebody coming in and paying rent on a property. It's about we were obligated to present to the Department of Health, and by the way, they score everybody impossibly. I don't remember what our score was. So. So I would again, not to be argumentative, what we did in a small town outside of Harrisburg in Steelton, we created 18 jobs. I understand, but keep in mind something. There's a vacant building that has been vacant and occupied and then vacant that sold, hang on a second, that sold alcohol. The community benefits programs will require the employees to give back to the community, whether it's in volunteering, to clean up at a church. By the way, I don't know what their plan is. That's what we did. The communities where we happen to go were extraordinarily appreciative. Not New York. Our York and Carlisle were actually thriving, and they were just buildings. There was an old pizza shop that the landlord wanted to keep filled, and the one in York was an old pool spot that moved up the street. I just wanted to. The reason I came up here is because it sounded like there was fear about making our communities less safe. I'm a single dad. I have 2 kids as well, and the last thing that I would want for them is to have them have more exposure to a Schedule I drug. It's just, I think the picture that has been painted, but I'm actually pleased to hear that you guys you have no problem with medicinal marijuana. I think that's the first and foremost. Thank you.
Thanks. Sure. Question?
Hi, Tim Fry, live on Williams Road, right down the street from this proposed site. I don't think you've heard from many people or anybody here tonight any adverse feelings towards the use of medical marijuana. I think the consensus of those people who have concerns is more along the lines of, we just don't want it in the neighborhood where we decided to buy a house and raise our family. That's not a decision that we had the option to make at the time when we purchased our homes. I think that's one thing. That's why my wife sent me here tonight. In terms of more of a procedural question, I haven't done comprehensive legal research. Your GC is probably the expert on this area of law. I don't know if John Rice has actually provided an opinion on this matter at all, but I have seen in the past, I don't know if it's still good law or not, an interpretation of the word school, which extends it beyond just the school building and incorporates all of the school property. If that's the case, then this facility would be within 1,000 feet of a school property. And so I don't know if that's something that has been opined upon. I haven't seen it. I don't know if your GC has a comment as to the legality or the interpretation of school within the concept of medicinal marijuana. That concept was, I think that was a school enhancement or a sentencing, finding that sale of a drug on a school property constituted school for the drug enhancement provision. So I don't know. As the members of the school board will clearly indicate that the Emlenton Nell Park is actually owned by the school board. I'm asking about the question about the school property.
Tim, I'll answer that. So that was an issue the first time around with Alara, okay? And Alara was actually much closer to Emlenton Nell Park, probably within 500 feet.
Right.
It is a park, okay? It is not a school. Just because the school board owns it, they're 2 separate things. And this again was brought up when I met with Restore and John Rice was there, and then the other the manager Zinkowski was there as well. So this has been brought up twice. It's been vetted twice, and the answer is the same.
My question really is: has John Rice made an opinion on this? Has he given an opinion on this?
I don't know if he says it's by right, so meaning that that's the opinion. I don't know if he needs to have a formal opinion. We do have Mr. Miller who may be able to answer that as well.
Well, then my question would be to the GC to indicate whether that question of what school means under the medical marijuana regulation has been adjudicated. And this is something I don't know, and I'm asking for I'm trying to find out information.
The park wouldn't qualify whether or not it's owned by the school board. It has to be a facility where children attend school or attend classes.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Josh Bowden. I live on Garrett Avenue. I'm a longtime resident of Radnor Township. So our questions tonight are in regards to our appreciation of what this all does. So I don't think anybody will dispel the fact that medical marijuana, has some benefits to people within the community, to people within their lives. The problem is, that I see it, is that if we have all these people in this room tonight here for this meeting, obviously we have some issues. So I'd just like to ask, for the benefit of our Radnor Township officials, Sean Farhi being our commissioner, who has an issue in regards to traffic? Raise a hand in the community. Who has an issue in regards to the safety of our kids within the community? Who has an issue with the fact that the Radnor police can't even walk in when they want to? I mean, there are some significant issues here. Well, I think that Sarah brought up a point regarding marijuana, that CBD oil and the benefits. Who doesn't have an issue? Okay. So, yeah. Exactly. Who has kids in this neighborhood, in this township, and has an issue because they have kids? So that is, I believe, the crux of where we are tonight. And I appreciate the presentation Restore made. Thank you very much. But, you know, there's some real issues here. And this woman over here on the right brought up the fact that when marijuana goes from medicinal to recreational, crime goes up, property values go down, and there's significant issues in the neighborhoods. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I have to dispute that because Trudy, you said we don't have to use the microphone. Here, happy to do it.
Someone just brought up a good point, the definition of a school. And if you look up in a dictionary, it is an institution that educates something specific. So it's an organized education of something. So there is a language school. It's one of 3 locations in the Methodist Church. So aside from the Radnor Township School District property being less than 1,000 feet, we also have the Spanish language school that's licensed, that's 300 feet away from this. So I'm sorry, but I do not buy that this is by right, and I would contest that, and I think we all should as well.
Allie,
you.
so that school it's by right. That school is not licensed.
What's your definition of a school? I'd like to know the solicitor's definition.
It's not an issue. It's not a licensed school. It
It's
does
a
not
licensed
fall.
school. It's a 100% licensed school.
It does not fall
Talk
under.
to Marcella.
Okay.
It's a licensed school.
Okay.
It's one of 3 locations. I would like to know, on record, the township's, the Board of Commissioners' definition of a school. We are all privy to that.
Okay, so this was vetted by the former manager as well as the solicitor. It is not a licensed school. They do not have an operating license. It's
Okay, how
classes.
long ago was that? Because you're saying former solicitor. Second of all,
It was about a month and a half ago.
okay, I'm sorry, but what is your definition of a school? I would like to know
It's not what
township's.
my definition is, okay?
So you're telling me it's the solicitor's
You need to
definition.
wait, and you need to wait for an answer.
Okay.
It's not what my definition of a school is, okay? It's what the legal definition of a school is.
Okay, what's the legal
Please
definition?
let me finish.
Gladly.
Okay, it's what the legal definition of a school is from the solicitor, from our codes, from the state, and it's not from me. So I understand that you don't want it there, but to start saying that it doesn't qualify, and this is why, and because you think that, it's not necessarily the case.
I'm still waiting for the definition.
Okay.
Can someone read it to me or email it? And also, by the way, I do have to agree with people here that we were just told a few days ago, and I emailed you specifically, Commissioner Farhi.
No, you never emailed me.
I
Ally,
will email
Ally,
it to everyone.
Ally, you never emailed me.
I 100%
No, Ally,
I said,
you
please
did not
keep me in the
mean-
loop. I hate to
You-
tell you
you-
this,
you
but I'm
did not- you did
screenshotting
not-
it, and I will send it up on.
Your how do you screenshot an email, Ally? You put it on
Screenshot. I
Facebook,
will
okay? And I said
screenshot.
that I was not responding to anything on
I
Facebook.
asked you to keep me in the loop regarding this decision, and you said that you
Ally, I
would.
kept everybody in the loop, okay?
Okay.
You're not special, okay? I kept everybody in the loop.
Thank you for your time.
All right, let's keep doing questions here, but let's keep the train on the rails, please. I mean, there's an amount of decorum we'll need to keep, please.
How you doing? My name is John Curtin. I live on Wentworth Lane. I'm the admin of a Facebook group for Garrett Hill. There's a lot of people speaking on behalf of that, weren't happy. One thing that I want to bring up is we talked about the park, right? But we also have Radnor Wayne Little League softball girls that play there. I mean, that's concerning, where you have these little girls and kids from March until October playing softball, 1,000 feet away. That's a concern, and I think most importantly, you know, we're all here talking about this small community, Garrett Hill. I will say this: Wayne Sporting Goods just went out of business. It's right on Lancaster Avenue. Might be a great spot for you. So,
Okay. We can look in it.
Hi, my name's Paul Martinson. I live in the ward. I don't understand how this all got taken care of without us knowing about it. You say you've known about it for I don't know how long. I've only known about it since I read it in the patch. Nobody informed me. Nobody sent out any notices to me or to anybody that I know. And I also have a problem with the answer of the owner. When you asked him, would there be recreational marijuana? And he wouldn't give you an answer. Now, right next door are 2 bars, there's a church, there's a children's playground, and there's a P&W spot. I'm sorry, stop, a block away. If that becomes a recreational marijuana spot, you are going to have problems up the kazoo in Garrett Hill. They can go in, they can get their dope, then they can go into the bars, then they can hang out in the park. I don't know if that's what you want. But you didn't give us, I don't think, adequate notification about this.
let me.
It sounds like they've already made a deal. They've got a lease agreement. We didn't know anything about that.
So let me just say something regarding that. So I did bring this up at the meeting. I believe it was at the middle, or I think it was at the first meeting after the reorg. So it was actually January 15th or January 27th. So I did bring that up and said that I was going to have a neighbor meeting. In regards to, are people going to use medical marijuana to go in the park and use it? No. The answer is no, and I think that you've heard it very, very clearly. That's not the case. Yeah, that's what I heard. The recreational I have a problem with. I'll be the first one to tell you. But it's not an issue. Okay, but it's not an issue. And at the next meeting, we're going to come up with an ordinance that will prevent recreational marijuana abutting a community. So that's something that I've been working on, and I didn't want to say anything until tonight. But the medicinal issue, that's still the issue here.
Who hasn't had a chance to ask a question?
Hi, I'm Sheila Norton, Chandler Lane. Because it is a cash-based business, I know that there have been troubles with other dispensaries and robberies, people going after the cash or just the product itself. I don't know if Restore, one of my questions is, has Restore had any issues with robberies or break-ins because of this at all?
No, we have not. like I said, we provided a letter from Sergeant Massey, who is in charge of the 26th precinct in Philadelphia, submitted that. We have not had any problems with any robberies, whether it be on the street, in the dispensary itself. We do have ATMs within the dispensary. We also have an app called CanPay, which is similar to like Venmo or PayPal, that we encourage our patients to use. So they're not walking around with cash or different things on them. And then when they come into the dispensary, they can talk to the agents who they're speaking with or the pharmacist, figure out how much money that they would need to purchase. They can use the ATM in our dispensary and then purchase their products.
Right, but I mean, the business itself would have cash on hand.
Yes, no, we have cash pickups and armored pickups, and it's very regulated.
And that was
with
another question. I don't know if you can answer that or not, but how often are the cash pickups?
I can't answer
Can't
that.
say. More than one a day?
No. It's normally like once or twice a week.
Okay.
It's not every single day.
Because I would be concerned with the type of people that would be interested in.
No, I understand it, and that's a good concern. But even with our deliveries, as far as product, it's rotated. It's not on a schedule every time. It's all the trucks that are used for the deliveries and also cash pickups are monitored by GPS, especially the growers and processors that deliver any product. They're monitored by the GPS, and that's reported to the Department of Health. The cash pickups, the systems that we're using they're certified companies with the Department of Health. They are also monitored, and it's not a mom and pop operation with them. We get text messages when the deliveries or when the cash pickups are coming. So it's very regulated, but they do rotate everything. It's not like 12 o'clock every Wednesday afternoon, we're going to have a cash pickup. And then a Brinks truck pulls up. All the delivery trucks and the cash pickup trucks in the state are nondescript trucks. It wouldn't have any lettering on the outside of it, like a Brinks security, anything else like that. Again, they're nondescript, normally vans, trucks of that sort. You can't see into them. They are, like I said, monitored by GPS and then have safes in the back. A lot of the cash pickup companies are former police officers and also former military. So they're very, very aware of what's going on.
How's it going? I've got a two-part question. First for the township and then for the guys from Restore.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Mike. I live about a half a mile down the street. First, I'm just curious as to how we landed on Restore at this location. I never saw a for sale sign up, or I mean, everybody knew the property was vacant and the pizza place shut down. Had any other businesses tried to lease the space, or had any other businesses tried to have it rezoned or reorganized for, some other purpose, like a coffee shop or, something else?
I'll actually jump in, and Bill, you can jump in if you'd like, but just understand, just not specific to this conversation tonight, but real estate transactions across the town and Pennsylvania and the nation, for that matter, the township itself, we are not the ones out marketing these properties. We're not out actively trying to find buyer A versus buyer B. Those are private conversations that occur between seller and buyer. The only time the township gets involved is usually after some tentative agreement has been made between buyer and seller, at which time they come to the township and talk to our zoning official and talk to building and codes to make sure that whatever use they have intended for that property fits within the current zoning, or if there would be exceptions or variances needed. So the direct answer is that they came to us at some point before I was in this role, but it's not something that the township was out there actively seeking a tenant or a buyer for that property.
Well, yeah. So understanding that this is a private transaction, I guess I'm asking the zoning official: had you had any other opinions on this property, or had you heard about any other potential buyers for this property?
No, I have not. No, I haven't gotten any other questions concerning this property other than from the realtor who's was looking to put Restore in there.
I guess the thought that I'm having is, the reason why Restore landed here is because there's not a school within 1,000 feet. And I think that's extremely short-sighted when you consider the neighborhood and the traffic and the homes around it. And I think that's unfortunate. And I'm just trying to think of, if this is a market transaction, if there were any other interested parties in the space. So then the second part is for Restore. When did you originally speak to the landlord or the property owner about a lease at this space?
How long do you think? I'm sorry, I'm going to bring her up.
So the first contact you had with whoever owns the old
Yeah, I was
shop.
the real estate agent involved with that. I contacted the owner of the property a few months ago. It was prior to Christmas. It was private until they came to an agreement with the owner on a deal, and then went to the township to understand what approvals may be necessary.
Okay, so you spoke to somebody sometime prior to Christmas. Now, I'm asking the owner specifically, have you or anybody else you had employed or consulted, spoken to anybody about this property prior to that occasion?
I was the agent that introduced it to the dispensary team.
Thank you.
And so just to briefly answer your question, the setbacks from schools and daycares is a factor because it's a state required factor, but we look at there are multiple other criteria involved. Patient demographics, access to the property, access to other dispensaries in the area, and as Stephanie had said a little bit earlier, in terms of doing the surveys and looking at the areas around it, there's no dispensary within 5 miles. And based on the patient population in Pennsylvania, which the number of patients that are registered in the program now exceed 280,000. A little bit under 200,000 currently have medical marijuana cards. The rest are currently under review. And so all those confluence of factors factored into, and the availability of this property and the fact that it's properly zoned and that wouldn't require a significant effort through a variance or change in zoning law, that all those factors served to deciding or determining that this was an excellent property where some good could be served by the company.
Okay. So for the real estate expert, how many other properties meet all the same criteria in Radnor Township?
None that I'm aware of that are available at this point in time.
And again, and now I'm just, speaking, but the problem I have is that you landed here because it's not within 1,000 feet of a school, which is completely ignoring the entire community and the basis of the people who live there. And I think it's extremely short-sighted, and I appreciate, everybody's opinions about the benefits of its use as medicine. But again, I think that I've got some serious issues with, I guess it's the state laws.
Yeah, hi, Dave Tenero. I live in the neighborhood. We've heard a lot about traffic. Can you tell us what you anticipate, how many customers per day? Maybe that will, you must have what you think about how many customers per day will be going to the Garrett Hill site based on, say, Fishtown and the other ones. Maybe it won't be any more traffic than the pizza place had. I don't know.
Or any of the other stores around there, for that matter. But it could be anywhere from 80 to 175 patients throughout the day.
Thank you.
And that's an 11-hour day, 10-hour day. So 10 people per hour, if you look at it that way.
So
So real quickly, I apologize. I got a 10-year-old daughter up in my office right now who's probably pulling her hair out, who's going to be playing softball at Emlyn Tennell in a couple weeks. So I just want to say thank you again for coming out. I know that I stepped into this role about a month ago, a little over a month ago, and the commissioner has been advocating for this meeting since that time. So I know we're just getting together tonight, and it seems like it's all of a sudden, but Sean has been advocating for this meeting for a while. This was the first night that all the pieces were able to come together with this room being available, and we're able to tape it. So I know that we feel one way or another, but understand that that's what we've been working on getting this meeting for a while. So I do apologize for having to run.
If you want to go, and then we'll answer a couple more questions, and then we'll call it a night. So, Ms. Chain?
Hi, Carol Chain. I live on Lowry's. First of all, you said, Sean, I'm just trying to understand what you said. The middle of January, you mentioned at a meeting. I couldn't hear that well when you were speaking over there.
Yep.
You mentioned at a meeting in January that you wanted to have a neighborhood meeting?
Yes.
Is this it?
Yes.
So when did we find out about it? You're saying we didn't find out about all of this 12 days ago.
No.
Did I have to watch that meeting that night to
Yes,
hear you?
I did mention that. I did bring it up. I did want to actually talk to Restore. I did not talk to Restore and get my information and talk to our solicitor, talk to staff, and then this was the first available time that we could do this. I did not want this at the church for the 3 reasons that I said.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
I don't
But
mind
no,
where
but
it
this
is.
was brought up, this was known a while ago. I know there were a lot of rumors circulating, but that's why I did not say anything or mention anything, and I kind of gave my opinion tonight because I didn't want rumors being spread how I thought about it one way or another.
I'm not asking your opinion. I'm just, so
Sure.
when did we, the public, find out about it? If we did not watch that meeting that particular night, I wasn't in front of my TV watching the meeting. When did that come out to us besides before 12 days ago?
I brought it up at the meeting.
That was it?
So I don't know, so if you, are you asking, should I have?
No, no, no,
put it
I'm
on-
just-
I mean, just so I know, would you have wanted me to put that up on my social media page or whatever?
I think that's
did bring
kind
that
of
up.
big to put up, just
Mhm.
like the lights of Villanova and the building, the house that was higher on Garrett Avenue, or something that went on and on and on about. But that was okay. But we just found out about this as parents and as people in this neighborhood. I don't know, and a question.
So I'll answer that. So there wasn't anything for me to say, okay, other than I haven't met with them. I didn't know that they were doing it. I didn't talk to them. I didn't know how serious they were. And until I found that information and had that meeting, I'm not going to say, hey, by the way, there could be a medical marijuana dispensary in the neighborhood, but that's all I'm saying. I don't know. So until I got more information, I mean, it wouldn't serve the public. It won't be just. Mhm. Sure. I know, I
It
know
was
that.
on Patch.
Mhm.
That's where we found out about it.
Sure. So.
Sorry, I work. I just don't. get to
And
see
the
it.
other thing too, Ms. Jane, is I don't always necessarily know. The township, you know, I would like to be in the loop, especially things in my ward, but sometimes I'm the last one to know. Sometimes I'm reading social media, and I'll have to
You'll find
I'll text the manager, I'll text them and say, hey, what happened? So, yeah.
Thank you. I'm not saying it to be. I just wish
No,
we
no,
had
no,
more.
it's a-
I
it's
just
a
wish
fair
we had
question.
way more notice.
Sure, it's
than,
a fair
than
question.
we did.
But then one more thing, it's not going to a zoning hearing board. There's no zoning hearing. There's no meeting. This is just an impromptu quote unquote neighborhood meeting. But because this is by right, they wouldn't even have to do this. Okay, they could say we're going through or we're not going through with this. So it's not like there's any kind of. It doesn't go to planning. It's not going to the board. And it's not going to zoning. So this is just a meeting that I wanted to arrange once I got all the information, and that's what I did.
So is this it? Is this basically it? Or
I mean,
I'm
so
asking.
again, everyone thinks that I have some control of I've heard Sean stop this. This is your neighborhood. I'm not.
I
So
get it.
and I'll tell you, the last time I did that, I was in the newspaper for saying things that I shouldn't. No, they tried to censure me, okay? So, and that's important. That's fair. So this is I'm one of 7 votes,
okay? And I would need 3 more. But here's the deal. This is not going to any kind of vote. This is not going to planning. This is not going to zoning, and this is not going to the board. So I can't stop it necessarily. What I can do is that if they do want to go from medicinal to recreational, that's something that, you know, I'll talk to leadership about getting an ordinance to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, and that's what I can do, and I think that there's an appetite with the board to stop having it recreationally. Okay.
Can you tell me? Can you maybe tell me when this purchase took place?
There is no purchase at this
I'm
time.
sorry. When did you buy? Whoever bought from the sellers of Garrett Hill, the seller of Garrett Hill Pizza?
I'm not. I'm not even sure if the current
Whoever
owner,
bought.
I don't know anything about the Garrett Hill Pizza. I'm familiar with this transaction in terms of how this was put together.
You're leasing it. I understand, but you're leasing it. But I think someone asked, when did it go for sale and how much and when was it bought? Does anyone know that, or who bought it?
You mean the current
The
owner?
leasing. The current owner. Okay, who is the current owner? There's still, Deep Lease is still the current owner.
Yes, and we have a lease on it, but we have not gone through with the final purchase yet. We were very open to having a meeting and talking to everybody and getting feedback from the community tonight, and that's a decision that we're going to make. We wanted to talk to everybody before we made this decision and go from there. It hasn't been.
Okay, I misworded. I'm sorry. So you started looking at it. My question is, at what date? I know you said before Christmas, but I think you maybe would know a more specific time.
Yes.
And I'll be quick,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
As I'm thinking back on it, I do remember, I think the first time I went and viewed the property was right around Thanksgiving. So that's when this started.
Okay.
Yeah, in 2019. So the property is privately owned at this moment, and this team has a lease for the property.
Okay.
Yes, with the intention of later purchase.
So it has not, so I don't think the property is sold. So you have an owner who's paying taxes on something that is not being used. And it's exactly what Manager White said. You know, private transactions, what 2 people do, it doesn't have to go through the township. Okay.
Hey, Sean. Thanks so much for your time tonight. Hey, so within the approval process, when will the community be given an opportunity to provide a community input to the approval process?
So again, this is by right, and I'll keep saying it. It is by right.
So is that a no?
So the chances are you can talk to them, and hopefully that if they do go through with it, they'll be agreeable to some of the feedback. But this is not going in front of the board. This is not going in front of zoning, and this is not going in front of planning. So I will work. If they choose to do it, I will definitely work as a as a liaison, but I can't promise anything because they're allowed to go in. They're not changing the footprint. They're not trying to say, hey, we want to make it an extra 10 feet tall, or we want to blow out the back door and have this parking, or changing the grade of this or that or the other.
Yeah, I understand the legal aspects and
unfortunately
that kind of thing. This is in the gray area, right? So this is the feeling
I
of
think
the
it may
community.
be a little more black and white than gray. Okay.
Hi, thanks for coming and presenting tonight to us. And I know you're getting a lot of negative feedback, and hate to say I'm part of that, but I do appreciate you being up here and hearing us out and hearing our oppositions.
Thank you very much.
what would it be for you guys to think this is just not the spot for us? You know, because I posted a very respectful, I'm really not for this. I have 4 children. I've lived here 12 years. I just don't think it's going to benefit our community. I get medical marijuana. My dad's a doctor. I've had, you know, family members on it. So I really appreciate and understand it. And they'll go and get it somewhere else. There needs to be a better commercial space. What is it going to take for you guys to feel like this is just not the right spot for us?
This is why we wanted to come and meet
Yeah.
with everyone tonight and get as much feedback as possible.
Yeah, I made a really respectful post. I got about 30 people that said, I can't come. Could you tell me what's going on? I just don't think it should be in Garrett Hill, nonetheless, in Radnor. There is a daycare on County Line, Play and Learn. I'm interested to know how many square feet or feet away that is, because that's pretty close. So on County Line, it's Play and Learn Daycare. Is that? Okay.
When we start looking at properties.
Just asking.
But when we start looking at properties, when Stephanie said that she had identified a property back in November, it takes several months to go through a vetting process to find out. You know, the first thing we do is look for schools and daycares. It's not the only reason by any means, but there's no point in going through with that effort if it's a complete nullity in terms of the availability. Then we go through a process in terms of looking at the patient population, looking at the demographics, looking at what other facilities are close by. And we've gotten a lot of positive feedback. We understand there are a lot of people and concerned people, and we like the community.
Right.
So with all those elements factored in, it takes a few months to lay this out in terms of what we understand so we know what we're moving into.
So I'd encourage a connection with this community. It's really small, tiny. I mean, I know there are people in favor. I understand that. I get that. But I would appreciate if you could stay connected with the community.
And that's why we're here tonight. And as the commissioner had said that, and we've done this with every project, we've had public forums or we've met with the community. We work with local charities. We work with multiple groups in Elkins Park, in Doylestown, and in Philadelphia. In terms of finding a partnership, because the last thing we want to do is be at odds with our neighbors, because we know that and not to make this a dollars and cents, but this is a significant investment, and if the investment is not going to be valuable to us and to the community we're in, because if it's not going to work, then there's no point in making that investment and creating a lot of hard feelings. That's why it takes a few months to vet the properties, to vet the community, to understand whether or not the zoning's appropriate. But the reason we're here tonight is to establish this relationship with the community and hopefully walk arm in arm as we go through this process and answer any questions as we do everywhere else.
I just quickly, Sean, thanks for this. My wife, Amy, so we kind of agree. So I do want to thank Restore for being here. You guys don't have to be here, as Sean said. This didn't require you to be here, and I appreciate you guys are here because I've learned a lot. I'm looking here at this board. I believe you had said there's more. There's a need for it. I don't think anyone in this room questions that. I think everyone in this room probably has friends, family themselves that could be on that board. But also this is a time, and I'm happy that Restore is here to learn about us.
Sure.
There are local business leaders in Garrett Hill in this room. And every business in Garrett Hill that I can think of is a business that gives back to the community, that's welcoming to the community. I think we do ourselves a disservice when we say we have bars, we have restaurants that serve alcohol. My 4-year-old can get a cheeseburger and a chocolate milk at Flippin' Bailey's or Garrett Hill Ale House. We can meet there. We can be together as a family. Obviously, we don't want 4-year-olds at Restore, and I'm not an advocate or advocating for that. But my point is there's a real welcoming family feel to Garrett Hill. I think we have the nicest park in Radnor. It's hard to see that now in winter, but there's tons and tons of families and kids. Parking has even become a problem. But my point is we have businesses that have always given back where families can meet and walk to for pizza or walk to for milk or whatever. What specifically, you guys had mentioned you've done some work, but what specifically can you tell us you're going to do for Garrett Hill?
Okay. So this is actually something that I didn't really want to bring up because I think could be perceived as a bribe. Some people say, well, it's great they're giving back, and some people say, well, this is what they have to do to get in there. And that's just flat out how it is. I mean, everyone knows about me. I don't mince words. I'll say what I think, okay? That being said, I spoke to Mr. Patel, and Mr. Patel would be interested in donating, and I'm not going to give a number, but a fair amount and a very sizable amount. How much? No. To the 4th of July parade, to give money to Bryn Mawr Fire, to help clean up Emlenton Park, and to maybe even put a playground there. And I'm not saying that we're going to do all of it, but to do some of it.
But Sean,
So-
there is a, hey, this is
so-
something I'd like to do. Is that something that could be on record?
No,
I mean, or is this more of a gesture?
This is
because people, I mean, people love to-
it's more. Hey, I'll say it's more than other neighbors do, or even suggest. So that's number one. That's number one. But they don't have to do anything. So so what we're doing here is we're beating them up, saying we don't want you here. But if you come, what are you going to do for us? I don't think that.
I don't think we're beating them up, Sean. I think as members of the community, we're just trying to learn more. And
Sure.
I, for one, want to learn more.
Okay.
I actually am one of the few people, aside from the folks at Restore, maybe, I used to work next to a dispensary in California. And ironically, California,
Was it
Massachusetts.
recreational or medicinal?
It started medicinal, and then the state went, and it was recreational, as do a lot of states.
And that's what we'll- that's
as
what
does
we'll work on.
Colorado, and as did Massachusetts. So these things do happen.
They do.
They do.
I agree, and we need to be
But
proactive
I'm not
about
here
it.
to beat up Restore. I have nothing about the folks that are here, the owner. This is not what I think this is about. We're just here to learn. And what I think we all need to just think about, is this right for Garrett Hill?
So-
That's what this is about.
Sure.
It's not
So-
about denying people the right to medical marijuana. Is it right in our little neighborhood?
I get it, but a lot of people, and I've spoken to a lot of people, I said, come here with an open mind. But a lot of people that came here, their minds were made up before. And I don't, people's minds were made up, and I'm not going to say who they were. But
Yes, Sean, my mind was made up.
Okay.
I'll say it. I'll say it because I'm speaking from personal experience.
Sure. So you're saying that you came here with an open mind, but your mind is made up. So
No, I came here to learn more about Restore, but I do think what I witnessed and observed for years, right next to where I worked, could potentially duplicate itself here. Because I remember people having their ID cards, and all of a sudden people had fake ID
Sure.
cards.
Sure.
You can buy fake ID cards. You can get a fake license.
Commissioner,
you can Google it. My
Commissioner
point is-
Fahy, I'm sorry. I don't mean it's so it's
Yeah.
almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah, so let me- yeah.
So it's been quite a while. Could I just say one thing? So I really think I'm good. I got my mic here. Thanks, Sean. So I'm Commissioner Borowski, for those who don't know me. So I appreciate having come here. I did not know about this either myself, and I appreciate Restore. You guys have obviously a business right up the street from where I work at Einstein, and in Elkins Park. And I think you've given a very nice and very professional presentation. Commissioner Fahy, I think you should be commended for bringing this group together. I understand that there are frustrations, that people feel concerned about this being located in their community, but this is, I think, an excellent forum and for people to share their concerns. Commissioner Fahy is correct, and I don't know if this is, in fact, a by right plan. The board will have no say. The Planning Commission will have no say. The Zoning Hearing Board will have no say. But I think that it is great that you guys are here. You seem very receptive and open to hearing from the community, working with the community. I don't know if this plan is going to happen, or if it's your sale is going to go through. Again, that's a private relationship between an owner and a business, another property owner. You wouldn't want the township to come in and regulate you selling your home and who you sold your home to. I think that this has been a really good opportunity for everyone to share. But, and Sean, if there is something that you want to bring forward to the board for us to consider around how we might, regulate if marijuana does become legalized in the state of Pennsylvania, which I got to tell you, if that happens in Pennsylvania, I'll be completely shocked. They've been trying to do it for a number of years. I really don't think that it's going to happen, especially not with the current makeup of the legislature, but I'm sure that the board is open and would be willing to consider, and we will certainly vet that, and that will certainly be an opportunity for everybody to come and discuss, your concerns around. Obviously, it's not around medicinal marijuana. Obviously, the concerns are around the potential for legalization of marijuana. So that is something, and what that would mean in a location where they're already dispensing, marijuana items. So that would be an opportunity for people to come and to speak. So, it is almost 9 o'clock. We've had them here for a long time.
Yeah, we'll cut them here at 9 o'clock. So 3 more questions, if that's good. 1, 2, okay. Who has not asked a question? Okay, so let's go to the people that.
I will. I'm Carly Boyd. I'm actually not a Garrett Hill resident, but I am a Radnor resident. I heard about this and I was curious. My one question is, you guys have said that you've come into these communities and had these forums before and asked questions. How many times have you had this amount of pushback and you've said, you know what, that's not the right place for us. We should choose somewhere else. Have you ever gotten this far in your process and then turned tail and said, no, this is not a good place. The community doesn't want us?
We haven't necessarily had to turn tail or anything like that, and that's not, even with the feedback tonight, is not something that we're taking as a negative. We wanted to hear from all the folks of the Garrett Hill area and to make the best decision for Restore and for Garrett Hill. So we're going to take all of this, go over it as a team, see what works best for Garrett Hill, see what works best for Restore. We've gone into the neighborhoods that we have the dispensaries in now with limited pushback with anything. I'm sure there are people in certain communities that have questions. Some of them might be a little misinformed at points. And we've answered that question. We've reached out to the community. And the only way that we are able to gain that trust is to gain the trust. Show it through our actions and show how we work with the communities and how we operate as a company.
So you've never had this amount of pushback before?
Not, and like I said, I don't necessarily feel like this is pushback. There's a lot of questions and other stuff like that. I think that there's a lot of questions that need to be answered and stuff like that. There have been people that ask strong questions, but that's it, like zoning boards and everything else like that.
My name's Justin Prattle. I have a question and then more of a comment. I operate a business on Conestoga Road, just catty corner to you, and during the day when Antonella's is busy and Villanova's in, parking's tough already. I know you said you're going to work out with the building next to you as well. Have you made plans with that? Because I know it's...
Yes.
What kind of arrangements do you have? Are you taking that building over as well? I know that you kind of briefly touched on it, but didn't really go into it.
That's part of the plan would be acquiring the property next door.
And what would you do with that building?
That building for now is going to be staying, and we're going to be working next with the young lady that owns the florist next door. But we will be using their parking, the parking spots.
Not all of it. We've worked out an agreement. We've spoken with the owner of the property next door. From what I understand, she's supportive of the project, but we do have the ability to use those spaces, as Rob was saying a little bit earlier. There's valet parking. I will say this, that our one property, our one facility in Fishtown has no parking adjacent to it. We have no issues in terms of that.
If you get more walking ability to that, please.
That's true. That's true, but to get to your point, we do have the parking that we will be putting out front. The spaces, there will be about 10 spaces that we'll be able to utilize next door. And then the parking that we were talking about across the street in the corporate complex.
And so in our Elkins Park facility, it's right across the street from a shopping plaza, and the plaza is very specific about any other business, ones across the street or that are not part of that complex, restricting parking. They have people who walk the parking lot to make sure. Restore's patients and employees are told that and taught that, so that the parking is limited to these spots at the facility, and there have been no issues. And that was a concern in Elkins Park in terms of parking and traffic flow, and based on what I was saying earlier in terms of how patients are handled and how they flow through the facility. Our interior designers here, who's handled all the spaces, and a lot gets factored into laying out the spaces, and particularly to make sure that the parking and the traffic does not
Okay.
hit a hot.
I'd say my quick comment. I know we're trying to wrap this thing up. I've been a resident now, also business owner now, about 10 years, and I've seen how our community has changed from when I first moved in. Say, oh, I live in Garrett Hill. People are like, what's Garrett Hill? Oh, you know, at that point, everyone knew it as Wild Onion Brothers. They knew it as 2 bars. Now I say I live in Garrett Hill. Oh, you guys got that new park, that beautiful new park. Great. I love Garrett Hill's whole, thing has changed. Everybody knows it as the nice park, not the bars anymore. Now I'm afraid with this coming into town, oh, I live in Garrett Hill. Oh, you have the dispensary there. I'm afraid that's going to be the new norm. Went from the bars to the great, nice, beautiful park we built. Now it's going to be, you have the dispensary. And just while I'm sitting here, my wife sent me 3 properties and move already. So I'm sure I'm not the only one.
So there's.
Thank you, by the way. Thanks.
I just wanted to ask about expansion.
So this will be the last question, and then we'll wrap it up.
Hi, Carolyn Swisher, live in Conestoga. You mentioned the property next door. Are you planning, or are there any restrictions on you expanding, knocking down the house or the building that's there and expanding?
There's no plans for that right now.
And that would require
Would that require
a
additional
zoning-
approvals?
Yeah, that would require significant.
Okay, so it
review.
wouldn't be medical in one building and medicinal, recreational in the other?
Oh, no.
And the tenant next door, that lease is a few years running, so there's
The all
no-
seasons?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I do want to thank everybody for coming out. I know that there were a lot of feelings, so hopefully we're all still neighbors. If I got heated, my apologies to those that I did. And I do mean that. It's tough. We'll look for some kind of compromise in the meantime. As I said, this is by right. At least that's what I'm being told, but we can look at limiting recreational marijuana, and we can come up with an ordinance to make sure that if this is it, this is where it stays. So again, I would like to thank Rob and the rest of the Restore team, as well as Mr. Miller, Superintendent Flanagan, our managers, our manager, Bill White, Ms. Borowski, our vice president, as well as everybody else. And I'll be here for a couple minutes after, so anyone that has some more questions, feel free to come in. Thanks.
Our next step is to submit an application package to the Department of Health for review and approval.
All right, thank you all.